at 7 p.m. Eastern to answer your questions, talk to professionals who can help guide us in a better direction. Remember, we have our Facebook group as well. I can't wait to talk to you tonight. This whole month's topic is very important, especially because it is World Autism Day. So let's keep in mind today is World Autism Day. So what I'm going to start with this month is advocacy and how important that is in our children's lives. And like I said, it couldn't have started on a better day. So right now I'm going to show you the video real quick, and then we will get Dennis on to go live.
Levi is going to be demonstrating our exercise stability ball. So this one is definitely more active. Can we see it? Here, let's move the table out of the way for a second so everybody can see. So this ball is unique in that it has 4 little nubs. Wait, 4? Nope, 5. I can count. 5 little nubs on the bottom that keep it from being too rolly, where if the child were to get up, you don't want it to roll across the entire classroom. So, you want to show us how it works, bud? Mm-hmm. So you just kind of push it down. It's not super stable, right? You still have to work pretty hard to keep yourself upright, right? Do you have to pay attention to keeping yourself straight and sitting right? Mm-hmm. Now, show me what you would do if you really got the wiggles. You want to bounce on it? Yeah, you can rock it side to side, bounce it up and down. Okay, and if you know me, you know we love proprioception. So he is getting input into those joints and those ligaments. It's pretty much a trampoline. But he is still seated. So obviously this is not the best choice if you are doing handwriting. But if you're doing a read aloud, this could be a great option. Or doing a speech or anything like that. And you can also have them not be bouncing on it, but just sitting on it, and it will serve a similar purpose to the wiggle seat. Buddy, where's your pen? Well, how are you going to do math problems? All right, there you go. All right, so let's see. I'm going to move this a little closer so you guys can see how this works. There you go. See?
Now we have to do math.
Now we have to do math. And of course, all kids have sensory needs, and so they can be getting their sensory input even while they're at school. So if they're getting this input during school, you might find that they're not having all those meltdowns when they come home. Because a lot of kids keep it together while they're out in public and while they're out at school, but their sensory bank is being drained the whole time. But if they're getting the sensory input they need while they're at school, they come home, they're not quite as demanding and they're not seeking it.
Like I said, I'm Jen Eggert of Ask an Autism Mom. I am just waiting for our interviewee to join us. I'm so excited. This month we're going to be talking with Dennis and Bridget. Unfortunately, it was supposed to be both of them at the same time. Corona's kind of messed everything up for everybody. But Dennis, thank you. We appreciate you joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. My pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited. When we booked for April, I didn't realize that we were starting on World Autism Day. So that makes it even more awesome.
Oh, it's very fitting. It's a perfect introduction.
It is. Now, Dennis Baker lives in the suburbs of Boston with his wife and daughters. He has over 15 years of experience as a special education teacher, and he was diagnosed at 19 with ADHD. So he also brings that perspective to his clients. Now, Dennis, I know you also worked on completing the Federation for Children with Special Needs Parent Consultant Training.
Yes.
So you are actually trained advocate in your state.
Yes, I am. And not that there's any licensing or licensure involved. All you need to be as an advocate is have somebody to advocate for. But the Federation for Children with Special Needs ran a 10-week program It was met once a week for 8 hours a day. And it was a mixture of professionals, and there were a lot of parents who were just trying to learn more. The Federation's mission is to really empower parents with information and knowledge to take home with them and to even spread that information around, where a lot of our mission is, like I said, to empower parents and to get them talking to other parents. So,
Right.
There are other people to talk to, and you don't always have to rely on an advocate.
Now, let's get right down to the basics. What exactly is an advocate?
I view an advocate as a bridge between the parents and the school to help kind of bring the team together. Many people, many schools, there have been often times where I walk into a meeting and I can tell that everybody on the other side of the table has their guards up because I'm an advocate and maybe I'm going to come in with guns blazing. That's not my perception of what an advocate should do. I like being a part of the team. I like trying to find commonalities between the team and the parents and see what we can get done. Like I said, I'm really not, and there are advocates in this state and in my area who are known as pit bulls and who will go after districts and really kind of, more of a combative style. That is definitely not my style. And you'll see next week when you talk to Bridget, that is certainly not her style either. We're not meant to be adversarial. We're just meant to bring people together to try to view things from an outside perspective and try to find out what's best for the student.
Now, how as a parent of a child with autism, how can I advocate for her best?
One of the things that was impressed upon us at the training that I took, and one of the things I talked to my parents about, is to know your child, know their strengths, their weaknesses. And that might be hard to figure out yourself, but there are ways you can go about getting that information. You can talk to the professionals at the school. You can use evaluations that have been done. A lot of times evaluations are written in a language that doesn't make sense to us. I've found it's very helpful to call the evaluator themselves. They're more than happy to explain it more in layman's terms. So I think, first of all, know your child, know their strengths and weaknesses. One of the other things you can do is open communication with the school. I always find that just sending an email early on in the school year, this is who I am, this is who my child is, letting the teacher know that you will be hearing from me at certain points in the year. I don't want to say that teachers, give more attention to parents who actively email and get in touch, but they really do. So the more that you can be visible to your students' teachers, I think that is definitely going to be helpful in the long run.
And they also that hand-in-hand interaction is a huge thing, and that's what we want as parents. The teacher and you to be a team, to work together.
Because we both have such different perspectives. The parent knows their student at home and they know them so well, but they might not know educationally, the best way or best strategies to try to help their students. So I think there's a lot to be learned. When I was a teacher, I always really loved when parents were involved and when they made themselves available and emailed me, not waiting for me to email them, but just reaching out to me and saying, this is where I'm at and this is what you can expect from me for the year. I've had some parents say that I'm going to be a little bit of a pain to you. And that's great up front. And they say it like jokingly. And I take that more to mean, hey, I'll just be checking in. I won't be waiting till progress reports or report cards and then raising a storm. Let's try to work, through the whole year, not just
consistent
those benchmarks. Right.
And that's so important. And it really, your child will benefit from it. They will see you guys working together and it will make them stronger.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of things, in the questions that we're going to talk about tonight, that a lot of things that parents do that will set an example for their children. My children are a little bit younger. They might have a hard time picking up on those things. But when students get to be, 13, 14 and entering high school, their advocacy skills are going to be very important. So to see the steps that their parents take to try to help them is only going to benefit them in the future.
Right.
If you don't mind, just another thing I could say, and I just kind of piggybacking on what I said, that whole consistent kind of communication throughout the whole year. Sometimes I hear references to, IEP season, and that's true. There always is that IEP season, but for us, for parents of children on IEPs, I feel that season is year round. It's hard to just pop in during that, whether it's a review meeting or a reeval. It's really a full, long commitment, and I don't want to make it seem like there's a lot of work, or I don't want to scare people off, but the more involved on a consistent basis you are, the better results everybody's going to have.
Exactly. Now, as a special needs parent, does my child need me to be an advocate, or can I just sit back and kind of let this happen?
I think your child absolutely needs their parents to be an advocate, even if there is a paid advocate involved. Having a paid advocate is great, but when you think about it, there's how little of the time are you actually talking and spending to that advocate? Maybe people are in a position where they can call their advocate all the time and afford the billing hours that's going to take. But when you think about the times that you're outside of school, you're outside of the home, that the parent is going to be the main person advocating for their child, the better off they'll be. So I do think definitely just in life that children need their parents to be advocates. Now, there are some cases where I have clients who leave certain pieces of advocacy to me, whether it's organization and it's paperwork. But I think and that's fine, because I know that's not everybody's strength. And it takes a lot of organization and a lot of staying on top of things. But I think most of the time, having a parent be an advocate, a parent's going to be the strongest advocate for the child most of the time. So whether that's in public, whether it's a social situation, I think a child will only benefit from having a strong parent advocate. And like we were saying before, it's kind of setting that example. By a parent advocating for their children, I can only think that that's going to make an impact, that the child is going to pick up some of those things. And I think a lot of what we're trying to do is to give our kids the skills that they're going to need when they get, whether they're graduating at 18 or whether they're in till they're 22, at some point, those advocacy skills for themselves are going to come in really handy. So I think modeling those types of things are really important, even when there's a paid advocate.
I just want to say, to add to that, you're not only teaching your autistic child, if you have other children around you. I was a special needs sibling. My sister unfortunately had a physical disability and passed away at 34 years old. But watching my parents advocate for her every day of her life made me her biggest advocate in life. And then, boom, I'm here. I'm a mom of a special needs child. And I'm also looking at my son going, but I get how you feel, which is totally different. And watching me advocate for his sister has turned him into, I hope she doesn't date for a very long time.
Of course. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to, by our actions, trying to model for children what it's like to advocate for yourselves. And with these days, with so many people needing services and on IEPs, like you said, it might not be you, but now that you're a parent and have children with disabilities, you've seen that before and you have a little bit of an idea. So I think that's really important for children to see their parents in action.
Now, how do we improve our advocacy or our advocacy skills?
Well, you have to work at it. It's definitely not easy, and people are coming at it from all different levels. Maybe you're new to the special ed world and you have no idea where to even begin. And that seems daunting and that's super overwhelming, I'm sure.
Right.
when I went through the training last year, there were a few of us with a special education background, but I would say 80% of the people in the class had no education background, and they were just parents looking to improve their knowledge, just to gain information. But I would start with the basics. And one of the things that I had sent to Jason before, as part of the IDEA law that was passed in 2004, each state has to have a parent, it's kind of a special ed parent hub that parents can go to and get, I know ours in Massachusetts, we put on web seminars, we put on clinics in towns, we do have the official trainings. So I would start with the basics. Find an online workshop, find a webinar. Each state is a little different as far as IEPs, but you can reach out to your school district. Every school district also has to have a parent advisory council for special ed. I know a lot of parents with young children, 3, 4, just getting into that school age, don't know where to reach out to. That's a great resource. I think those CPACs, ask questions of your of people communicate. I just think getting as much information as you can. Now maybe you're coming at it and you have a little more basic knowledge, but there's still a lot of ways to improve your advocacy. You might have some familiarity with special ed laws. If that's the case, you can sign up. I know even on YouTube there's a lot of webinars about specifics, whether it's assessments, whether it's transition planning, whether it's that 18 to 22, area after high school. So there really is a lot of information out there. It's more of trying to find out where you can go to get that information. And lastly, local support groups. One of the things that I found out from a lot of the parents who took the class, the training with Bridget and myself, there was a mother who had 2 autistic sons, and she had nobody to talk to, and there was nobody in her area. There were no support groups. So what she did, she started one herself. Every Saturday, she meets with a local group once a month, and they just talk about problems, things, they decompress, they just vent a little bit. So I really think doing this in isolation isn't the best way to go about it. It's making connections, even to realize that, hey, I'm not the only one going through this right now. There are other parents with students who are now 22 and successfully employed and living on their own. So there's a lot that can be learned from just connecting with other people.
Now, our last question is, and I just want to say, if any of you have questions regarding advocacy, put them down in the chat section now so that we can work on that. But Dennis, when should I hire an outside advocate?
So, that's a great question. I personally think, as an advocate, can I say that everybody should hire an advocate all the time? And, I say that kind of jokingly, but I really think everybody should consider having an advocate. Now, the level of how you use your advocate, it can differ depending on your knowledge, but I think the system is set up in favor of the schools. You go to a team meeting, you walk in, how many people are on the other side of the table? 7, 10. I've been to meetings with 12, 13. And when you walk in with somebody, maybe it's just yourself, all of a sudden, it just feels really overwhelming. So hiring an advocate just to let you know, to be a support in the meeting, and to also let you know about what the school might not be telling you. I don't want to say that schools are going to withhold information, but they're not always going to tell you what you don't know. So I think having an advocate is certainly a really nice thing to have, just to, and I don't want to, like I said, I'm not intimidating schools, but going into a meeting with an advocate, it's an entirely different atmosphere than if you just go alone.
It is. There's all kinds of, they call it the gray area. And I find that when the advocate comes, that gray area becomes a lot clearer.
Oh, it certainly does. It certainly does. And I went to as a school teacher, I sat in hundreds of team meetings. And this year, when I started going to team meetings as an advocate, it was funny the way people looked at me. Like, not that they were afraid of me, but they looked at me like, all right, there's an advocate here. We really need to tighten up, and we really need to be clear about what we're saying. So I think just having an advocate, just for meetings even, is definitely beneficial. Now, as an alternative to that, there are situations, maybe people can't afford an advocate. I would just recommend having somebody go to a meeting with you, whether it's a friend, it's a sister, it's somebody who can take notes. Once you're in a meeting about your own child, which I discovered that this year, it's a whole different world. There are things being told to you, and you walk out of that meeting and realize I really didn't process much of it, and I have so many questions that I didn't ask. So, maybe if you can't hire an advocate, I think it's always important to have somebody in the meeting with you to tell you that, hey, maybe I misread how that special ed director was speaking. Maybe I took it the wrong way, and because I was a little emotional, and the person with me after the meeting kind of, let's go over the meeting. How did it go? And they can give you things a little more where your emotions aren't clouding the picture. So I do think, and if you're not going to hire an advocate, I think, I know all the advocates I work with are so willing to consult. I have free consults. I know Bridget does. Any advocate is doing this because they want to help children. So I know that even just picking up the phone and making a phone call to an advocate just to discuss what might be going on would definitely be worthwhile too. And one last thing, and I don't have my binder here, but if you are, there's a lot of organization involved with this. There's meeting invites, there's evaluations, there's progress reports, there's report cards, there's emails from the school. If organization isn't, your thing, I think that's, again, another reason to hire an advocate. I know Bridget and I, we didn't create the binder, but we use a 3-ring binder specifically with different sections, and it just makes everything, you have it all in one spot. You can easily reference past IEPs when you're in meetings. So there are, you could hire an advocate for lack of knowledge, lack of confidence, or even just lack of organization. I have a client who just wants me to deal with all the paperwork, and she's involved, but she says, my brain is not an organizational type, so I'm going to leave that to you, which is totally fine. So there are different reasons, that you should hire.
And I know people down here who hire an advocate actually for the brainstorming before they go in. They look at where the child was at the last meeting, where they are now with their work, and kind of help the parent decide if they're, there was a point in time where we were being told we had to repeat a certain grade. And we sat down, we had an outside source look at all the paperwork with us, and she was far and ahead of a lot of these kids, but they wanted to hold her back anyway.
Right. I think, having an advocate just to bounce some ideas off. And maybe an advocate, I think part of also being an advocate, and I'm not sure I mentioned this before, is being honest with both parties. Being honest with a parent. You have parents who come in wanting to raise hell, and it's having an advocate look at things objectively, kind of taking the emotion out of it. I've had some difficult conversations with parents, not really difficult, but it's my duty to be honest with a parent. So I think to have those pre-meetings and to talk, and maybe an advocate can steer you in a right direction or confirm what your thinking was. Or, I know the school wants to hold my kid back and I don't agree, and the advocate can confirm that. Right. So definitely having at least a pre-meeting consult with an advocate is never a bad thing.
Now, Angela asks, what is the best way to get educators to be proactive versus reactive?
Well, I think showing them that you're going to be a parent who is involved. in the year. That's definitely, and I hate to say it, but caseloads these days are growing, so big so quickly. When I started teaching 12, 15 years ago, I had maybe 18 kids on a caseload. When I stopped 3 years ago, it was up over 40. I don't want to say that I gave certain kids less attention, but the parents who I knew were involved maybe got a little more thorough progress report, just a little more attention to the little things. So I think showing that you're going to be a parent that is going to be involved the whole year and that you're kind of working as a team, I think that's a great first step to get the teachers to realize they need to be proactive with certain things.
Now we have Clarice that asks, is there a way to get info on how I should label the different sections of the binder? Dennis, is there any examples or anything that I can share in group later?
Yes, I have a couple of, it's like a table of contents that we use for our 3-ring binder. And it's really, I can scan them and send them over to you and Jason. So you can print them, but it's really just breaking it. It's IEP, breaking it into evaluations, progress reports. And you'd be surprised, those binders get very thick very fast, because I always like to keep the last couple IEPs. Usually we say 2 years. The last 2 years IEPs, the last 2 years progress reports, the last 2 evaluations, and any neuropsychs that have been done. So I can gladly scan our table of contents, and you can post it to the group. And
so Clarice, go ahead and PM me, and then that way when Dennis sends me the table of contents, I can get it to you immediately. Angela White says, in Missouri, we have MPACT. Do other states have the equivalent?
So I would assume, is that some sort of standardized testing to for
Angela,
graduation?
standardized testing. I need more information. She'll get back to us. I know she's paying attention somewhere.
Okay. Oh, no problem. And you can always email me questions after this.
I do have his information, guys. So, Angela, I can find out what that is, because knowing Dennis, he's now sitting here going, okay, what is that? Is that another resource?
Now I'd like to know. There's so many things, even from state to state, that are different and that we don't know. So I love learning. It's funny. Bridget and I talk like we're nerds at heart. We love reading evaluations. We love reading neuropsychs. We love finding new information. So now I am wondering what that is.
And that's how it should be. A constant desire to learn. I mean, then you'll never get bored.
No. And there's always something, things are changing, constantly, regulations are being updated and schools' policies. So I think just that lifelong learning. And that's kind of what I talked about at the beginning. It's being a good advocate does require, that learning piece and that work.
Now, I just want to get into real quick, Cassandra Valencia. I know Williams syndrome. I actually went to school to learn about different disabilities many, many years ago. Yes, Williams syndrome has a lot of the same traits as autism. We do not kick you out because your child is not autistic, folks. We are now encompassing all children of special or different needs. So do not worry about being asked to leave our group because your child has Williams syndrome. Again, we help all children now.
Right, and even like what the video you showed with the sitting ball. I mean, my daughter is ADD. She's not autistic, but she has ADD and she has a lot of sensory needs. There's a lot of overlap, so she's not one thing, she's this other thing, but there's so much I think that can be learned, and there's overlap between the different disabilities. So it's good that it's an all-inclusive.
Oh, Bridget is watching us. Bridget will be on next week with us. That's his counterpart. Bridget and Jason both posted what MPACT is. It is Missouri's Parent Training and Information Center Center funded in part by the U.S. Department of Education and the state of Missouri.
Okay, so that must be our equivalent in Massachusetts, maybe, of the Federation for Children with Special Needs. I do have a link. I did do a little bit of research, and I found a contact in each state. I think some states are so big they might have a couple different contacts, but I will also send you that link that you can post. And parents, I know, so for example, the Federation in Massachusetts, we have a call center that is staffed 5 days a week. We have 2 different ones. Parents call with questions. We have a group of advocates who volunteer their time, answering questions the best they can. You could even find pro bono advocates that way. So I think finding that resource for each particular state is a really good way. And it's funny, I was a teacher for 15 years. I had no idea the Federation for Children with Special Needs even existed in Massachusetts. And I feel the teachers, as a teacher, I would have liked that, because we have had teachers call us at the call center. I have a student on an IEP, and I just have this question about what's going on. So I think those types of resources are beneficial, not only for parents, but for professionals and educators too.
Now, folks, I am doing a show coming up, and it is all IEP. Don't worry. It will be this month during our advocacy. We're going to look at advocating in different ways. And an IEP is number 1 on my list. Don't worry. After I deal with that. Hello, Riley. Mommy loves you too. Be good.
We could spend so much, there's so much that IEP could be its own, and it will be its own thing. But there's so many different parts of this. I like how you break it down.
And right now, we don't really, most places, our IEPs are on hold.
Yes.
Unfortunately. So we have some time, folks, to really dig in and get the best information.
And I know that we're currently learning, I know we've been getting together as a group of advocates here, just on Zoom, actually, because we can't be together, just to talk about where things are and what school districts are doing for remote learning, and how even the Department of Education, federally, what kind of information that they're giving down to schools. And I know initially there was a lot of confusion and misinterpretation. So I think we're getting a little bit more clarity on the responsibilities, but this situation is so unprecedented for everybody that I think we're going to be learning each day a little bit more about the best way to go about getting this done and helping our kids in this time.
Now, I'm going to kill your name, Nisa. Please join our parent support group. The link is on the Lakikid page if you cannot find it. If not, please message me at Jen Eggert. Let's get you in the group, because if you're just found out your daughter was diagnosed in March, let's get you the support you need first before you have to learn all these little words and things. There's some things that should come before everything else.
Yeah.
So then thank you, Jason. Nisa, Jason posted the link, lakikid.com/support. That is our Facebook support group where you can join for help at any time. So Dennis, I'm really thankful you were here with me today. Oh,
thank you for having me. It's funny how quickly.
I've already gotten a message from Bridget saying that she's working on the binder thing.
Awesome. She's the best. We make it. I'm so disappointed we couldn't be together, because I think seeing the two of us in action together kind of, just is a good example of the teamwork that it takes to service all of our kiddos.
Cassandra, I'm not sure if Washington State has anything. Jason, do we know? Okay, Jason's answering. Sorry about what Washington has to offer. Well, Jason's doing that. I am sorry, folks, but it is time to wrap up the show. Like usual, we went over. Anyone who knows me knows I usually go over. But Dennis, thank you for coming. I'm sorry Bridget can't be with us. Next week, we'll actually switch over to Bridget.
And I'll be watching.
And it'll be your time to watch.
Yes.
So we'll have her. I'm so thankful that both of you made the commitment. I mean, this whole Corona thing threw us up in the air for weeks. But I'm so happy we could finally do it. And
Me too,
on
me too.
holidays, World Autism Day. So have a really great World Autism Day, folks. Remember, we are here to empower, support, and educate our children. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.